Your body cannot make salt. Not a single grain of it. Every cell in your nervous system, every muscle contraction, every electrical signal that moves through your brain right now depends on a mineral your body cannot produce on its own. You have to find it. You have to eat it. And for most of human history, finding it was one of the hardest problems your ancestors ever solved. This is the story of salt, not as a seasoning, as a hunt. Start with the body. Sodium is essential for nerve transmission, muscle function, and fluid balance. Without it, the human body begins to fail within days. Hyponatremia, dangerously low sodium levels, causes confusion, seizures, and death. Your ancestors did not know the biochemistry, but their bodies knew the craving. Salt hunger is one of the most powerful and specific cravings in the animal kingdom, hardwired directly into the brain's reward circuitry. Researcher Wolfgang Liedtke of Duke University has shown that the neural pathways for salt craving are distinct from general hunger or thirst. Your brain has a dedicated system whose only job is making sure you get enough sodium. For early hunter-gatherers living primarily on meat, this was rarely a problem. Meat and blood contained substantial sodium. Anthropological studies of populations like the Inuit, who traditionally ate diets extremely high in animal protein and fat, show people who thrive for generations with little to no added salt. The sodium was already in the food, but everything changed with agriculture. When your ancestors began farming roughly 10,000 years ago, their diet shifted dramatically toward grains and vegetables, foods naturally low in sodium. Suddenly, a population that had unconsciously gotten enough salt from meat now faced a biological deficit. Historian Mark Kurlansky, whose research on the history of salt has become foundational to understanding this period, has documented how the rise of agricultural societies created, for the first time in human history, a genuine, population-wide need to actively seek out and acquire salt as a separate resource. Farming did not just change what people ate. It created an entirely new economic problem. How do you get enough sodium when your food no longer provides it? This problem reshaped the ancient world. Consider the archaeological evidence at Hallstatt in Austria, where salt mining dates back over 7,000 years. The site became so significant that an entire Iron Age culture, the Hallstatt culture, which influenced Celtic societies across Europe, organized itself partly around salt extraction. Miners descended into shafts, extracted salt-laden material, and the wealth generated from this single mineral helped fund elaborate burials, sophisticated tools, and far-reaching trade networks. Archaeologist Anton Kern, who has led excavations at Hallstatt for decades, has documented evidence of organized, specialized labor focused entirely on salt production, one of the earliest examples of an economy built around a single critical resource. In China, the Sichuan region developed brine wells for salt extraction that historian Pierre-Étienne Will has traced back over 2,000 years, using bamboo pipes to draw up salty water from deep underground, then evaporating it in massive iron pans over wood fires. This was not a minor cottage industry. Salt production in ancient China became so economically significant that governments imposed monopolies on it, taxed it heavily, and fought wars partly to control it. Salt routes crisscrossed the ancient world, connecting communities that otherwise had little contact. The Via Salaria in Italy, literally the Salt Road, carried salt from coastal pans near Rome into the interior of the peninsula for centuries before Rome was even a significant power. Roman soldiers were sometimes paid partly in salt, which is where some historians trace the origin of the word salary from the Latin salarium. Whether or not every detail of that etymology holds up under modern scrutiny, the underlying truth remains. Salt was valuable enough to function as currency, valuable enough to fight over, valuable enough to organize entire trade economies around. In West Africa, the trans-Saharan salt trade became one of the most important economic systems in the medieval world. Salt mined at sites like Tagaza, in what is now Mali, was transported by camel caravan across hundreds of miles of desert to be traded, sometimes literally for its weight in gold. Historian Paul Lovejoy has documented how salt caravans organized entire seasonal migration patterns, supported complex trading networks, and connected West African kingdoms to trans-Saharan and eventually global trade systems centuries before European contact. Let's reconstruct a moment. You are part of an early agricultural community. somewhere in the ancient Near East, roughly 8,000 years ago. Your diet has shifted. Grain fills your stomach, but something in your body is missing something it cannot name. A persistent low-grade craving, an instinct pulling you towards something specific. Your community has identified a source, perhaps a salt spring, a deposit of rock salt, or coastal flats where seawater evaporates and leaves behind white crystalline residue. Specialized members of your group make the journey regularly, sometimes walking for days to gather this resource and bring it back. It is rationed carefully. It is traded with neighboring groups who lack access to a source of their own. A small handful of salt might be worth a tool, a basket of grain, an hour of skilled labor. This single mineral, available abundantly to no one and absolutely necessary to everyone, became one of the first commodities to drive large-scale human trade and cooperation between groups who otherwise had no reason to interact. The need for salt also reshaped food preservation, which reshaped human civilization in turn. Before refrigeration, salt was the primary method for preventing meat and fish from spoiling. Salted fish, salted meat, and fermented foods preserved with salt allowed communities to store food through winters, undertake long sea voyages, and supply armies on extended campaigns. Historian Trevor Corson has documented how salt-based food preservation directly enabled the long ocean voyages that connected previously isolated population centers. Without salt curing, sailors simply could not carry enough food to survive months at sea. The age of exploration, in a very real sense, ran on salt. Salt taxes shaped political history as directly as any war. The French gabelle, a salt tax imposed for centuries, became one of the most hated taxes in pre-revolutionary France, contributing directly to the social tensions that erupted in 1789. In British colonial India, the Salt Acts restricted Indians from producing their own salt, forcing them to buy it from British monopolies at inflated prices. When Mahatma Gandhi led the Salt March in 1930, walking 240 miles to the sea to make salt illegally, in open defiance of British law, he chose this specific act of resistance because everyone understood, on a visceral level, what it meant to be denied access to something your body cannot live without. Now consider your own relationship with salt. You sprinkle it without thought. It sits in a shaker on your table, infinitely available, costing almost nothing. The ancient hunt that once required mining shafts, camel caravans, and entire economic systems has been so thoroughly solved by modern industry that the scarcity has become invisible to you. But the craving itself never disappeared. Your brain's dedicated salt-seeking circuitry, forged over millions of years of evolutionary necessity, still fires exactly the way it did for your ancestors. When you reach for the salt shaker without thinking, something ancient is steering your hand. The same hunger that once sent people walking for days across deserts, that once justified taxation systems and triggered revolutions, that once made a single white mineral as valuable as gold. You cannot make salt. You never could. And for most of human history, that single fact shaped where people lived, how they traded, what they fought over, and how civilizations connected across deserts, oceans, and mountain ranges that should have kept them apart. The hunt for salt built the world you live in. You just season your food with the evidence. Please comment on what you would like to hear next.